Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to start with Unit 2 of your MFN 003, that is your microbiology. And the topic here today we are discussing it is food safety and its basic concept. Okay, so starting initially we have to discuss what is the meaning of food safety and types of food safety that are practiced in the field. So we have two types of food safety. One is your absolute food safety and another one is your relative food safety. Absolute food safety is the assurance that damage or injury from use of a substance is impossible. That means there is an absolute food safety, no risk are involved in the food. Okay. Next we have relative food safety. It is the assurance that damage or injury will not result from a food or ingredients used in a reasonable and customary manner and quantity. That means whatever the amount of ingredients that is being utilized in the food, it is not going to cause any damage to the food that is being prepared. Okay. So these are the two types of food safety that you will discuss in this chapter. Next, we have relative terms such as you have hazard. Okay, what is the meaning of hazard? What is the meaning of toxicity? What is the meaning of what is the difference between hazard and toxicity? What is the meaning of food quality? Okay, so discussing about hazard. Hazard is the relative probability that harm or injury will result when the substance is used in a proposed manner and quantity, while toxicity is the capacity of a substance to produce harm or injury of any kind under any conditions. That means the two specific distinguishing character is that hazard is your probability and toxicity is your capacity. Okay. So what do we do in order to control these hazards that are imposing a problem in the food development? So in day-to-day life, in your home or whatever you say, if you're preparing food in a smaller scale, okay, so whoever the person who is preparing your food is responsible for the preparation safety of the food, okay, so as to there is no contamination when the food is being prepared in the kitchen, etc. But on a larger scale, okay, we have a term that is HACCP, okay, that is your hazard analysis critical control point. It is employed by the food industries to minimize the chances of contamination during your food processing. Okay, we will not discuss this in detail because there is a totally different unit, that is unit 13 of your microbiology book. It is going to be a full discussion of HACCP in that particular unit or that particular chapter. Okay, now moving on to your factors affecting your food safety. If you see in your book, you have table 2.1, page number 29. Okay, this is a table which consists of the hazards associated with food. The topic, there are three basic types of food hazards, that is your physical, biological and chemical. Under chemical, you have two more branches, which is the natural occurring poisons of biological origin, and next you have chemical or deleterious substances. Okay, so these are the hazards that is associated with the food. So by looking at the table, you will be able to understand that what comes under this three different types. Okay, for example, in physical, you have glass, hair. Okay, so if it is contaminated with glass, hair, stones, plastic, etc., it comes under your physical hazard. Biological hazard contains microbiological pathogenic bacteria. You have spore forming bacteria, non-spore forming bacteria, you have parasite, fungi, virus, etc. And under chemical, natural occurring poisons of biological origin, you have mycotoxins and you have algal toxins. That means it is toxins that is being created by again some biological beings. Okay, and chemical or deleterious substance contains their veterinary residues, antibiotics, growth stimulants. Okay, So pesticides, cleaning fluids, all these things, these are your hazards. So moving forward to in the chapter, you have your physical hazards explained in detail, that you can always go through in your book, so it is not a big problem. Okay, so basically physical hazards may be defined as any foreign material not normally found in a food which may cause illness or injury to the individual after consuming or using the product. They may cause injury, illness, and others may never be noticed. Okay, so these are your physical hazards, and then you have example. Figure 2.5 is pointing out to the examples of what your physical hazards may be. Next, then we have biological hazards. These are these microorganisms that cause diseases are termed as foodborne pathogens. As we already know, pathogens are microorganisms that cause diseases in your body. Okay, so here in your table 2.2 you have biological hazards in foods. Further branches it out to bacteria, yeast, protozoa, molds, and viruses. Table 2.2 is denoting your hazardous microorganisms and parasites along with their commonly affected foods. Okay, so what you have to do is you just need to go through this table and you will find according to which particular foods are being getting implicated. Okay, so which organism is affecting which food. So you can just read it through. It contains 18 microorganisms. Okay, so you can just read it from your book. I'm not dictating it here or reading out here. So next, moving on to chemical hazards. So already discussed, we have two types of chemical hazards. One is your biological and another one is your totally chemical hazards that is being used in your foods. Okay, so types of chemical hazards, table 2.3, foodborne toxicants. Okay, naturally occurring chemicals, unintentional chemicals, and you have your intentional chemicals. Naturally occurring chemicals, they are found in plants, microorganisms, and animals. Example, they are your mycotoxins, histamine, mushroom toxins, shellfish toxins, etc. Okay, it can also be said, like, you know, they act sort of allergens, but they affect only certain type of people, not totally allergen but type of allergen. Okay, unintentional chemicals, these are your lead, polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, and paralysis products, etc. Intentional chemicals are your food additives, pesticides, drugs. Okay, so why they are intentional chemicals? Because we know that without, you know, when you are producing food in a canned food industry, for example, if you do not add any food additives, then the product is going to get a low shelf life. But food additives helps the product to gain a longer shelf life. Okay, and pesticides, they are used in large scale farming and large scale farm production of foods or grains, cereals, whatever. So these are your intentional chemicals. But here what happens is, like, if pesticides are not clearly washed, okay, then it may cause a problem while the food is being processing. Okay, and food additives, regarding food additives, you need to be clear, you need to understand that what kind of food additives is actually allowed to be put into the food. Okay, there are certain standards which denotes this food additives that is supposed to be added or not added, which you will obviously we will discuss in our further units. So this is just an introduction to you guys. So moving on to we have microorganism in food. So what kind of microorganism is present? We have bacteria, then we have fungi, yeast, molds, viruses, and parasites. Okay, in parasites we have amoeba and giardia. So here you will learn what types of bacteria are there, what kind of yeast are there, what is growth of a bacteria, lag phase, growth phase, resting phase, and death phase, endospore. Okay, so these are important in this topic, And what type of bacteria you have? Bacilli, cocci and spiral. Bacilli means they are little, cocci means they are cylindrical in shape, and spiral means they are spiral in shape. Okay, in together all this, when they are infected, when the food is infected with all this microorganism, it leads to the spoilage of your food. Okay, why? Because certain microorganism, for example bacteria, they have endospore. It is a spore which is very resistant to extreme heat, or you see, when you're cooking, the cooking temperature is not that apt for the endospore to be destroyed. Okay, so it later stays in the food, and when then you consume it in your intestine, then the incubation period occurs, and then you have bacteria growing in your intestine. Okay, so these topics are similarly to what we have already discussed in your plus 2 in 11 and 12. You have already learned, you have already went through all these things. So it is just a recapitulation, or you just need to revise whatever that has been taught in your plus 2 or in your HS or higher secondary classes. So we move on to recent concerns of food safety. Okay, in recent concerns of food safety, we have prions, and we have GM, that is a genetically modified foods, and you have dioxin contaminated food. Okay, so this is important because these are all new. Okay, so why is prions, why is it important? So prions, they are entirely new source of foodborne diseases. They are proteinaceous particles or modified forms of a normal protein called PRPC. The protein that causes this and all other prion disease is called PRPSC, or prion protein of Scrapie. Okay, prions enter the cell and convert the normal proteins found within the cells into prions just like themselves. The proteins accumulate in brain, causing holes and plaques and subsequently clinical symptoms leading to death. Okay, so have you heard of BSC, or BSC is your bovine spongiform encephalopathy? Okay, it is also known as your mad cow disease in your layman term. Okay, it occurs in cattle. How does it occur in cattle? It is like when a cattle eats MBM meat, that means meat and bone meal. Okay, so this meat and bone meal, it is already affected with the prion. So if it ingests this, then slowly the disease occurs in the cattle. Okay, next we have your CJD. It is your Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Okay, this is a fatal form. This is a fatal form of dementia, and it is generally occurring in your humans. Okay. So now the question is, how does an individual get affected with the CJD? Okay, the CJD, as discussed earlier, it is a victim of CJD becomes infected through the consumption of cattle products contaminated with the BSE. Okay, so if a human is consuming a cattle that is affected with your bovine spongiform encephalopathy, then he automatically gets the disease. Okay, so that is why it is very fatal for humans. Okay, there is a new strain that has been found in younger people as well. So younger people having dementia, so one of the causes might be CGT, but it is a very rare kind of disease. So we hope it remains rare. Okay. Next, moving on to, we have your GM, that is a genetically modified food. Nowadays we have very much abundance of genetically modified food. Okay, though we know what are good for the people, because genetically modified food, sometimes it is cheap, sometimes the product that you are buying is available 12 months. Okay, when it's seasonal, it's not remaining seasonal anymore. But as we have discussed earlier in unit 1, so chances is that they might be causing some problem after the consumption of these certain products. Okay, so the discussion is still going on. Next, we have your dioxin contaminated food. Dioxin. So what is a dioxin? Dioxin and related compounds, that is polychlorinated dibenzo P-dioxin, or PCDDS. Okay, or polychlorinated dibenzofurans PCDFS, and polychlorinated biphenyls PCBs are halogenated aromatic compounds which are industrial pollutants that persist in the environment. Okay, how do toxins enter the human diet? Toxins are lipophilic, that means they are fat-loving compounds which accumulate in the fats of the animals. Okay, hence these types of food which tend to have the highest dioxin concentrates are your dairy products, meat and poultry and eggs, fish and animal fats, green vegetables, fruits and grains on the other hand, and the types of food with the lowest dioxin concentration. So, all in all, we can always say that meat eating is a bit problematic, but where it can be said if meat is also problematic, then so is your vegetarian diet is also problematic. The thing is, we have to be very careful when we are selecting our food, the type of food that we are consuming, from where we are consuming, and the type of processing that has been gone to a food. So saying this, I would like to end this unit. Here we have discussed the basic concepts of food safety. What is your hazard? What is your toxicity? And yeah, one more thing, food quality. Food quality refers to the attributes that influence a product value to a consumer. This includes both negative attributes such as spoilage, contamination, adulteration, food safety hazards, and positive attributes such as the origin, color, flavor, texture, etc. Another term which is often used while talking about food safety is your food hygiene. Okay, food hygiene refers to all conditions and measures necessary to ensure the safety and suitability of a food at all stages of the food chain. So, whatever the table I have suggested you with the page number, please go through the tables, because basically from this chapter you will not get so many questions. You will just get the definition. What is the definition of hazard? What is the meaning of toxicity? And what is the meaning of your food safety? Okay, how do you keep a food safety? How do you maintain the food hygiene? And then you have your HACCP. That means you will need to give the full form of HACCP, where it is practiced. And from unit 13, which you will reading later, you need to write down the terms that is constituting your HACCP. And then you have your prions, you have GM. Okay, so these are the latest food safety concerns. Okay, so this might be asked. And in case of microorganism in food, you have bacteria, fungi, yeast, mold, viruses, and parasites. From there you can always learn that how is these microorganism affecting the food, how does it get into the food, and the growth stage of bacteria needs to be discussed. So thank you for today, and next we will be discussing unit 5.